And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050, WTKA, online at WTKA.com. We're live here inside the Suburban Chevrolet Make the Choice studios, and it's a heavyweight bout. I mean, you have two outstanding teams, two teams that squared off against one another earlier in the season. Florida being that other team, beat Michigan both times. But this is a different Michigan team than the one Florida saw. Meanwhile, on the Florida side of things, you got a pitcher that has gone on to become a pitcher/hitter that's going on to become the National Softball Player of the Year. And if I'm not mistaken, Ira, they didn't face her, right? They didn't face her.
Only as a batter. They did not face her as a pitcher.
Yeah, so you're going to have two teams that are bringing to the table some things that are unknown to the other side, and two teams that are clearly playing their best softball. It should be an outstanding matchup. And joining us to talk about that from a first-hand perspective is Detroit News Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis. Angelique, how you doing?
Well, I feel like I'm covering a softball school now.
I tell you what, you go on the message boards and you see plenty of threads about softball. I'm just as surprised as you that just how rampant fans have gotten over Michigan softball in a short period of time. I guess a general question before we start talking about Michigan, Angelique, is do you feel like the sport in general is just gaining popularity?
I do, Sam, and I think part of it is there are a lot of games on ESPN, and those games yesterday were on ESPN, and they've been on ESPN2 and ESPNU, so they're out there, and people are the ratings have been up. I mean, Michigan and Alabama game was one of the most watched shows on ESPN that evening, and games, pardon me. And I do think I think what's appealing to fans is it's fast paced. There's a lot of energy, and I think that that's what people are looking for. I think they're finding it from in terms of women's sports, and I covered women's basketball years ago at Tennessee. I don't think basketball has captivated the nation, but I think sports like women's volleyball and softball have sort of taken over that women's void, I think, in sports on television. And I think part of it's because it's fast and it's fun. I mean, the energy, at least when you're watching the Michigan team, it's really contagious, and it's really fun to watch when a team's having such a good time and staying loose like they do.
And they have great players, and arguably the best player playing the game right now. And I guess what really strikes you, though, is as good as Sierra Romero is, and I want your perspective on that. What strikes you and what strikes other teams is this team is much more than just her. And I think that's what kind of really catches these teams that haven't seen Michigan before.
Oh, it's unbelievable, Sam. I mean, it is, you hear you've heard Hutch say it, and now you're hearing all the opposing coaches say it. 1 through 9, this Michigan team is so deep. And I thought yesterday it was really the bottom of the lineup that got them, kept them in the game, got them going, and was the spark. And I do, you hear the cliche all the time, if I'm not having a good game, I know someone's got my back. Well, it's true. I mean, this team is that deep. And, you're getting people like Ramirez, Abby Ramirez. I mean, these are very consistent players. And I think you're seeing it in the pitching as well. I mean, Betha has struggled these last 2 games early, and Haley Wagner has come in fired up. And this 1-2 punch or the deuce that Hutch has been talking about, it's absolutely accurate. And they just don't seem to have a drop-off. They seem like when they're getting their backs up against the wall, if they have the last couple, I mean, really since the Georgia game, the last Georgia game, they've really proven that this depth, this terrific pitching, this outstanding coaching, I mean, beyond, I mean, she is phenomenal, Hutch is, and it's been the difference maker for this team.
Yeah, Hutch knows, it's obvious that she's about to be the winningest coach in softball come sometime next year. She's been on the job for decades now, with over 30 years, and her teams are getting better over time. And I guess the thing that strikes me more than anything else is she knows what buttons to push with her players, because Haley Wagner a couple of weeks ago, she pulls her very early in the game, first couple of innings of the game, and she came out firing after. I asked Hutch about it, and I said, well, why did you pull Haley so early? Why didn't you let her try to work through it? And she said, I didn't like her. I didn't like what she was doing. She wasn't attacking. And I hope she doesn't like me saying that. I hope she gets mad. I hope she gets ticked off. I hope she gets a chip on her shoulder. And you look up 2 weeks later, and here Haley Wagner is responding to that challenge.
You know, Sam, and I think that's part of it. And people keep saying, you know, now who's going to start this first game. And, you know, I think there's something. Hutch said it the other day that she often goes out to the mound, she goes and talks to her pitchers and tries to tick them off. I mean, she wants her pitcher to pitch angry. And, you know, Haley Wagner didn't get the pitch 2 years ago in the World Series, and she's been very motivated by that. And you know, has talked very freely about how this past year has been. Her goal has been to get to this World Series, not get there, but pitch, and she's done it. And I think that's very, you know, when you see a player who has this goal and sets it and lives up to it, I think that's pretty amazing. But I do wonder if, you know, people say, well, Haley should pitch. Well, this has actually worked out pretty well, and I got to believe Betsa's going to snap out of it and start pitching well. But maybe Haley's ticked off like Hutch wants her to be, and I think that's a very dangerous Haley Wagner to have. Now the issue is, will Betsa get angry? And Hutch said after the game last night, you know, she struggled these last 2 games, UCLA and then LSU, Sam, and you know, Hutch said she just focused too much on the opponent and thinking way too much and looking frustrated, I thought, and well, clearly she's getting hit, but. Maybe you want an angry Haley coming in. I don't know what the answer is, who should start, but my hunch is that they should stick with the combination they've had.
We're talking to the angel of, I guess we should call her the angel of Alumni Field, too.
And ASA Hall of Fame Stadium.
She's the angel of all things Michigan. Angelique Chengelis for the Detroit News, down in Oklahoma City, reporting on Michigan in the Women's College World Series. So you've seen a lot of softball, Angelique. I think that Sierra Romero is the best softball hitter I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. You know, her bat speed. I haven't ever seen a woman swing a bat as fast as she does, and I think that's what is so striking when you look at her home run numbers. Physically, you know, Romo and Samantha Finley are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And yet you still have Romo passing her in home runs yesterday.
She's got amazing hands, and she's a really smart player. Now there are a couple plays like the last game when she bunted, and nobody could figure out why she bunted. You know, she didn't swing away. She had a similar situation against Georgia, and Hutch is not calling that. You know, Romero wants to do that. She's gotten in her head that, you know, she wants to be on base, and you know, I think that yesterday she swung freely and she got that big home run. But you're absolutely right, Sam. I mean, she is a phenomenal athlete, and Hutch just said she's better than Derek Jeter, and you know, Sierra says that Hutch talked about Jeter a lot, and not only in the sense of being a great baseball player, but being the player that lifts your team. And she definitely is a catalyst. I mean, there's no doubt about it, obviously, because she is such a phenomenal player. But I thought the play when she's you know, she's trying to take second and they really got the LSU players on their heels, especially the first baseman, and Sierra Lawrence then scores on that play. I thought that was really astute, and you know, she knew what she said later is that they knew they could mess with him at that point, and she knew that she could trust her teammate to go with her on it. And I thought that was great leadership. And this team has really been, again, I mean, sometimes you listen to it and you think, wow, this is so cliche and trite, but they talk about trust and they talk about believing in each other. And I thought that was very indicative. And when your star players talking about it, I think that just means the chemistry is that solid. Yeah,
when your star player is willing to bunt, willing to sacrifice,
mm-hmm.
I mean, that sends a message to the team. And I kind of started with Romo because I want to get your sense of things being on the ground. And that was a great observation you just made about that double steal at the end because, I mean, there are 2 outs. All LSU has to do is tag Romo, and the inning is over, and that was completely lost. That was completely lost on them in the field. And they tried to go home, and obviously Michigan ends up scoring a run and taking second base. But to get back to the point, so late in the game, Angelique, the base runner for LSU tried to take Romo out. I mean, she was nowhere near second base, clearly out of the base path, tried to take her out. You had the third baseman for LSU stand in the base path and knock Terra Blanco over. You had him stealing signs. Did you feel like, was there this sense that, man, LSU was they're kind of pushing the limits here a little bit?
Well, I think that they realized they had to do anything they could do. I mean, I think Sierra answered that question about that. She just laughed. I mean, she basically said that. I give them credit for trying that. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's what this team does. I mean, I think that they bring a lot. They put a lot of fear in opponents, and especially when you see what they've done when they've gotten behind, and they just stay steady and they don't waffle at all. I mean, they just stay focused, and I mean, I think it'll be quite a different strategy and ball game with Florida, but I think LSU at that point had to do anything.
All right, so Angelique, I know you've known Hutch for a long time, and she is as candid as you'll ever hear or see a coach be. Mm-hmm. What you see is what you get. I like to say there's no pretense when you're dealing with Carol Hutchins. And yet I do sense something different in her, and I don't know if you sense the same thing, but she just seems like I've seen so many more smiles from Hutch this season and in this run than I feel like we ever have before. Are you getting that same sense?
I totally am, Sam. And I didn't articulate the question very well last night when I asked Hutch that it just doesn't – you don't see a lot of coaches who let their players talk so freely about, well, we want to win a national championship, we want to go there and win. I mean, usually it's like we have our goals, and they're just this whole team, and it starts with her, oozes this confidence. And look, frankly, it's refreshing to be around as a reporter. And, when I asked her about it, she just said, look, if you say it out loud, you have to own it. And I think she likes that about this team. But, you wonder, is it chicken or the egg? I mean, is it coming from Hutch first, or is it coming from the players? And because you're right, Sam, I mean, she is smiling, she is loose, she's having a good time, and she really thinks this team is very good. And I was thinking about that because I think the last time I felt that kind of confidence from coach and players was the 97 Michigan football team. And I thought that team was loose. That team talked a lot. Didn't talk trash, just talked confidently. And this team doesn't talk trash. They don't say anything about the opponent except, they're a terrific team. This team talks about itself. It's completely focused on itself, and that's what Hutch has preached. And it's really fun to listen to them because it's so I don't know how they keep it from sounding like they're bragging, but they are just extremely confident, and they feel like they are coming here to win this thing, Sam, and they believe they're going to.
All right, so let's talk about the series, the final game starts tonight. I'm curious, Angelique, first give me your sense on how much of a role fatigue plays in pitching in softball, because Lauren Hager, who's the National Player of the Year, she outstanding with the bat, outstanding pitching, obviously. She went 9 innings. I think she threw 160 pitches in the last game. Right. How impactful will that be, and how impactful is that generally in softball when a pitcher logs that many pitches?
Well, I don't think it's going to really hurt her. I mean, I think the technique certainly doesn't damage the shoulder like throwing a baseball does, but I got to believe it. I mean, she's going to have some fatigue, and they were off the field. Oh, I don't know, what time did that game start yesterday? I think she'll have time to rest and ice and do all those things that you should do, but. I think the other thing too, Sam, is it hasn't been hot. It will start getting hotter today, and these next couple days will be getting hotter in Oklahoma City. And I don't know if that favors her because she's used to playing in this kind of hot, wet weather. I mean, it gets very muggy here. And does that give her an advantage over playing, a team from the north that doesn't have these kind of days until, well, there's probably like 3 days we have like this in a year. But I don't think fatigue will be an issue. I think this is the championship round. I think that Lauren Hager is that good, and clearly that good. She's SEC Pitcher of the Year and the National Player of the Year, and I think she'll be fine.
Okay, all right. So my last one for you, Angelique, is kind of another perspective question. You talk to people that watched Michigan basketball in the late 80s, for instance, and they'll say, hey, 89 won the championship, but 88 was better. They had Gary Grant, and I'm curious. I mean, we haven't seen this team what the final chapter for this team is going to be yet. But even before we see the outcome of the World Series final, can you say that this is Hutch's best team? Is this the best team that she's fielded at Michigan?
I think she thinks that, and that's why I think she is so confident, as you said, Sam. And I talked to quite a few of the ESPN softball analysts who have been here, and they think this is the best Michigan team they've ever seen, and mainly because of the depth 1 through 9. And yes, that 2005 team won a national championship and had phenomenal players, but it was a core group. It was a couple players who were really good. This team is really solid top to bottom, and I think that's why they're separating them. And I think it's been interesting to hear Hutch say that she went back to something she did in 2005 with this team. They did vision training, and they have this machine that shoots out tennis balls at a really high speed with small letters and numbers on them, and the players had to work on that and identify the numbers in red or black and what the number was on these tennis balls that are coming at them so fast. And she did that in 2005, and she didn't really do so much in between. And I think you're seeing a lot of similarities to that 2005 team, but I think most people are saying, yes, technology has improved in those 10 years, but this team is just that good.
Well, Angelique, I know you've had fun doing your job, covering a lot of different things from the races to Michigan football to all those things. But man, I got to I was talking to Ira about this earlier. I just think it would be so much fun to be covering what you're covering right now, being down there in Oklahoma City.
I totally agree, and I got to tell you, I didn't know what to expect from Oklahoma City, and it's a really beautiful city, and to see the support for softball. I mean, they're getting 10,000 people at the stadium, and I mean, people are talking about it. There's definitely a buzz about it, but yeah, it's been fun. I mean, this is a really nice team to cover, and Hutch is a phenomenal coach, and I mean, her staff is great, and it's been very, very rewarding, I guess, best way to say it, covering this.
So do we need to, write you an absentee slip for our meeting tomorrow? I mean, you're not going to be present.
Yeah, I guess so. I forgot. Oops.
No problem.
I'm working on that right now, Angelique.
We got you covered.
Yeah, I'm working on that right now. I'll get it taken care of.
All right. Well, keep up the great work. Great job as always, Angelique. Appreciate you waking up early with us to talk some softball this morning.
It wasn't that early, but thank you.
Well, you're still earlier than us right now, so.
That's true.
You did us a solid, so we appreciate that.
Well, there's French Open, Sam. I can't miss that. So.
That's right. And is it Serena and Sloan Thomas today?
That's correct.
See, I'm on top of it a little bit.
If Serena's in it, Sam knows.
That is true. All right, Angelique, thanks a lot. You know what?
All right.
Let's wait. We want to book you. If Michigan wins this whole thing,
absolutely,
we got to have you back on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think it might go 3 games, but we'll see.
Okay. All right, Angelique, thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Sam.
All right, that was Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News. You can read her coverage on debtnews.com. Again, that's debtnews.com. She is doing a great job of covering Michigan's run to the World Series.